1. So just some quick background information for you all. I worked for 2 summers as a waiter at a ritzy country club on Long Island. For anyone here who knows anything about Long Island, you will know that there is quite a good mix of wealthy people, and perhaps those who could be described as middle class. I am from a fairly well-off family, but my parents have always been adamant about me working a real job to get a feel for what it is like. Honestly, I think everyone should have to work as a waiter, but I digress. Oh, and I was 18 or 19 at the time, and I'm a guy, if that matters. So the country club I worked at has 2 separate restaurants. There is a very fancy indoor restaurant with a dress code, nice silverware and dishes, all that fun stuff. And then there is the outdoor restaurant, which is a series of tables with umbrellas and a slight overhang, with some more tables closer to the snack bar. And the whole outdoor restaurant is perched, fenced off, above the pool area. All of the staff, mostly high school and college kids, switch roles quite often, unless they really excel at one thing. Like any restaurant, there are busboys, servers, snack bar staff, and kitchen runners. Nothing too out of the ordinary. But enough backstory. I think you guys get the idea. So it was a warm, sunny day in June, and I was rather enjoying working outside. On slow days, I would bring my book to read, since there was no rule against doing so, not to mention that reading for fun blew some of the minds of the younger staff. But again, this is not really important. As the clock approaches noon, the lunch rush begins. Now, there is a weekly swim class at the pool, which inevitably means a ton of sopping wet kids are about to order a mountain of chicken fingers and mac and cheese. No problem. This isn't my first rodeo. And the kids like me because I'm always kind, at least I try to be. After picking up 4 of the 8 tables myself, some of the other staff were often slow to get tables. I took orders and everything was going swimmingly. No pun intended. Then, of course, in walks a very affluent-looking Long Island mom with her huge sunglasses and equally huge purse. She sits with her wet kids, a young girl and boy, and calls me over to order. First of all, calling over a server after just sitting down is not standard procedure, but I ignored it and went over with a smile to take their order. The kids order no problem, a burger and chicken fingers. Their mother also seems to know what she wants, and asks for the Cobb salad. Great, order done. I go into the kitchen, enter the order into the system, and continue helping people, as bringing the plates to the table is the job of the kitchen runner and not me. However, the runners are usually the newer employees, since it's an easier job and is helpful for learning the table layouts. Anyway, I am waiting for more tables to help when a runner comes over to me with a scowl. She tells me one of my tables is not happy, and that I gave her the wrong item. I was unsure of what went wrong, but I'm always willing to fix a mistake. When I get to the table, the woman tells me, "This is not a Cobb salad." Now, I should have tried to explain that this was indeed the Cobb salad that she ordered, but she was so adamant that something was wrong that I simply offered to refire the ticket and make sure it was right. This satisfied her, so I go back to the kitchen and tell the chef that we need another Cobb salad. The chef is a real piece of work himself and is either really nice or very angry, depending on how much he's had to drink that day. He looks unhappy at me when I hand him the salad, and I think he knows I am not doing this. Then he quickly makes another salad and I return to my customer. She takes one look at the plate, obviously angrier this time, and says, "What I have is still not a Cobb salad." Now at this point, I know I'm gonna get chewed out by the chef if I bring this damn salad back again, so I instead ask her what is wrong with it. What I actually said was something like, "Sorry about this, ma'am. How can I fix this salad to your liking?" She says, "Just bring me a Cobb salad." You know the old saying, you can't help someone who won't help themselves? So I say, "Yes, ma'am," and once again return to the kitchen. The chef is so angry he is red in the face, but before he can yell at me, I put down the plate, go back to the customer, and tell her, "I have spoken with the chef, and this is his recipe for a Cobb salad. If you would like a custom salad, we have that option as well." Then, as if the answer had been obvious all along, she points at the plate and says, "Cobb salads don't have all that dressing." I wanted to strangle this lady. She should have told me that 15 minutes ago, and saved us the damn trouble. But instead I was just happy that I had an actual course of action. After getting more shit from the chef, who was actually mostly angry at the lady but cannot yell at her so gets mad at everyone, I bring her the Cobb salad with no dressing, and a side of dressing for her to use as she likes. She looks at me after I place it down, and when I ask if this is okay, she waves me away. After that day, I swore off Cobb salads for the rest of my life. Two. So I started working at a pub about 6 months ago, and I work there regularly as either a waitress or a bartender, depending on what's needed on the day. One particular day we had a function. I don't know how it works in other places or countries, but where I live and work, people can rent out a function room with a bar and DJ for the night. And it was a 50th, so I was happy since an older crowd usually means better tips. I was going to be a bartender tonight, not a waitress by the way. Anyway, the night starts off okay. We're definitely overstaffed, but I knew from experience that those extra people would be needed when it was time to call last orders. At some point during the night, it's pretty much just the two of us at the bar. I had very useless co-workers, and we have about 5 or 6 people waiting to get served. I'm moving as fast as I can and everyone getting their drinks, when I catch the eye of a woman who looks angry and throws her hands up when I walk past her. Now normally I'm very nice when approaching customers, but tonight I was already pissed off because of my aforementioned useless co-workers. Seeing a grown woman throw a hissy fit because I didn't serve her in the 15 seconds it took me to get someone a vodka and coke annoyed me even more. I eventually go up to her. Mistake, I know. With an admittedly pissy look on my face. She proceeds to order 2 shots of baby Guinness, which if you don't know what they are, can be messy to make. I take over the shot glasses, pour the first half of the shot, and as I am pouring the second, I accidentally spill some out. Now keep in mind, this isn't a fancy upscale bar. It's a casual, homely pub run by 3 siblings. If I was a super professional bartender in an upscale facility, I would understand her next actions a little bit more. But even so, not really. This grown-ass woman proceeds to point to where I spilled the liquor slightly, and begin huffing and puffing like the wolf from this story with the 3 little pigs. She basically had a temper tantrum at the bar because I spilled some liquor. Keep in mind that this did not affect how much was in the shot, and that she was still getting a full shot. Then my manager proceeds to let me go on my break. She gives us weird break times, but I really needed one, so I took it. And as I was walking outside to smoke a cigarette, guess who is right in front of me? The hissy fit lady from earlier. This woman proceeds to attempt to open the door, but pushes instead of pulls and hurts her little finger. For some reason she looks at me like she expects me to dote on how hurt she is. But I just open the door and walk outside. Normally I would make sure the customer is okay, but this lady was extremely disrespectful, so I didn't care at all that she got hurt. She goes outside and begins yelling at me about my sour face and bad attitude, and how I am not customer service. No, not customer service friendly, but just customer service. I ignore her completely because I'm tired and just trying to get through the night. But for the length of my 30-minute break, I can hear her complaining about me from the other end of the smoking area. I go back inside when my break is finished and tell my manager what happened. My manager knows that I am a good employee and she backs her staff, so she just laughed about it with me. I resolve not to serve the woman for the rest of the night and things finish off fine. I just have to say that I'm always nice to my customers. But if you rudely get my attention and proceed to act like a child at the bar, I literally could not care less about you as a customer anymore. 3. Hey all, I'm back. First I want to say thank you for the love on part 1. I honestly didn't expect this little story to go anywhere, but here we are. A day or 2 after MM's first visit, I was scheduled for a closing shift with my co-worker who we'll call Ray. I arrived as the lunch rush was beginning, around noon. For context, on a typical day, food and drive-through traffic dips down for the remainder of the day until close. Our story is also open later than most of the other locations in the district, so we'll get the occasional person grabbing a late lunch or snack. Basically, It's not too difficult to run a store with just 2 people post-lunchtime. We went through the rush without incident. Customers were getting their food out the window and from the counter in a timely manner. Now around the start of my shift, I'd helped one person who had come in and grabbed a half dozen along with 2 sandwiches. He'd seemed unusually dead set on making absolutely sure that the sandwiches were correct, before going on his way without much fuss. Come 2:30 to 3-ish, Ray and I are both getting our closing duties started and helping out people as needed. Both of us are on the DT headsets, with one of us taking the orders and the other making the food. We're both pretty quick on the draw in terms of answering when someone pulls up. I'm cleaning the line when I hear the ding go off in my ear. I answer with my typical, "Hi, what can I do for you?" From the other end I hear a curt voice reply, "Yes, I had my colleague come here earlier to pick up some bagels and sandwiches. My sandwich was not made correctly, and I would like to have it remade." I immediately remember the guy from earlier, and while I'm generally pretty good about order accuracy, I reason that perhaps his co-worker had misread the order. I give the usual dry apology, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and tell him to come up to the window. I meet him, and since he had not bitten into the sandwich, I take it back and remake it. Salmon, onions, mayo, tomato, capers, and lettuce, all on a pumpernickel bagel. Sound familiar? I bring it back to him, apologize again, and leave the window, thinking that was that. Well, it wasn't. Keep in mind, I've only been told the story of MM and his police-calling shenanigans at this point. I'd not actually had the misfortune of meeting the legend himself, or so I thought. A couple minutes later, we hear another ding, but the person has already driven up to the window. Every now and then we'll have an elderly driver or ever-observant individual not notice the speaker, and while my co-workers and I begin to wonder if there are DTs without speakers to this day, we suck it up and meet these people at the window anyway. This time Ray gets to the window before me. From the line I can still make out the annoyed voice at the window. Ray comes up next to me, rolling his eyes with a sandwich in hand. "What'd I mess up?" I ask. "Do you remember that douchebag that general manager banned the other day?" I look at him incredulously. "No fucking way, that's not..." Ray nods, grinning and sighing before saying, "Let me deal with it." Now, I'm not someone who goes out of my way looking for a fight. However, I can be pretty vindictive in certain situations, particularly when I know I am in the right. Fortunately, my patience and impulse control has improved thanks in part to my job, and I trusted Ray to handle MM. So Ray remakes the same sandwich, brings it to the window, while I keep my distance. After several minutes, I hear the window slam shut, and a car revving away. I walk over and see Ray texting quickly, a scowl on his face. "So, we might be having a visit from the cops again." I begin laughing. "You're kidding, right?" He nods, starting to laugh as well. He fills me in. Apparently, MM had decided that second time would be the charm, and tried to do the exact same thing he had done with GM. That's right. Our antagonist wanted a remake of his Academy Award-winning performance, along with another golden statue on top. Ray calmly informed him that he not only knew the sandwich was made correctly both times, but that he would allow MM to keep both sandwiches for free. Typically, we just throw the dud away, but Ray did this more out of spite than anything else. He also reiterated that all store staff, including himself, had been informed of MM's ban from service, and that if the situation further escalated, he'd be forced to call the police. MM had replied, "Oh, so that's how it is. What's your name?" Ray said, "Sir, I don't think that's necessary." "You people are unbelievable. You brought this on yourselves. You'll be sorry." And sure enough, 15 minutes later, a cop car pulls into the parking lot. This time, a female officer comes inside the store and asks to speak to the manager. Ray and I both give our sides. The officer doesn't even try to hide her amusement and lets us know that we had nothing to worry about. She grabbed a coffee, got back in her car, and drove away. I asked my boss if she heard anything from the police after this all went down. MM has apparently had other incidents like this at other restaurants. He's got some sort of personality and dissociative disorder, and his family has been keeping closer tabs on him since the last outburst at our store. I do feel sympathetic, as I have several friends with similar disorders, However, I do feel that this could have been prevented or at least handled better. Again, not shaming him or his disorder, I just wish he or myself and my co-workers weren't placed into this situation. 4. So I manage a busy restaurant in central London. We are normally fully booked weeks in advance, even for Mondays. This was a Thursday, and we were jam-packed. I was walking around making sure everyone was having a good time, and one of my waiters, super nice and a competent guy, comes and asks me to take one of his tables. I have a policy that if anyone is giving my team a hard time, I'll take the table, so they can stay at the top of their game. He gives me a quick heads up that the issue is a woman who didn't want to wait longer for her food despite having a severe nut allergy, and she was calling him stupid and saying stuff like maybe McDonald's would be a better fit for you. I go over to talk to the lady. She is part of a group of 12, and right away she's already in my bad books. "Are you someone with a brain?" I look at her and laugh awkwardly and tell her, "Some people would argue, but I think so. My colleague tells me there is an issue with your order." "Yes, I have a severe nut allergy. And he was saying things may contain traces and would take slightly longer, asking dumb stuff like, are traces okay?" I tried to explain to her as nicely as I could, "Oh, okay." He asked about traces to know if we can use the food that is already prepped. For a severe allergy, we can't use any ingredients that were prepped, as there could be cross-contamination, so what we would have to do is clean down a separate area and prepare everything from scratch. But of course, we can time everything to come out at once so you can all enjoy your food together. And as for the may contain trace, that's just because we don't make all our sauces ourselves. And some items are prepared in a central kitchen where we can't control. That being said, we have never had a problem with an allergy. She looks at me as though I just slapped a baby in front of her and says, "So, you are stupid too. Is it so hard to deal with an allergy? Our company is spending a lot of money here, and we booked 6 weeks ago. A restaurant like this shouldn't be so stressful. Can you just make my food without nuts, and if I have a reaction, I'll sue." That's when I thought, she's right. So I told her, "You're right. I'm sorry we can't serve you. The sauces can't be made from scratch, and because you are unwilling to accept a risk that's comparable to a risk you would take when buying anything packed anywhere that says may contain nuts just to cover themselves legally, I'm going to have to say we cannot safely serve you." To this day, when I think about her face, I smile. She was in shock. She immediately asked to speak to my manager, but was out of luck. I told her I was the general manager. Her friends didn't seem to care. I think it was a work thing because none of them reacted. But I was feeling petty since she insulted my team member and then me. So I addressed the whole table and said, "I'm really sorry about this, and I wish we had known in advance so we could have prepared for such a severe allergy. I really don't want this to sour your evening, so I would like to offer everyone a cocktail on us to apologize." They were all really happy with this gesture, and before Allergy Lady orders her cocktail, I tell her, "By the way, we have almond syrup and nuts in the bar, so I would only feel comfortable giving you something closed like a bottle of beer or a glass of wine. It cost me over £250 to give away the round of drinks, but felt so good to give her a bit of karma." 5. During my college days, I worked in my local Spoons. Spoons is a nickname of a British pub chain, by the way. Anyways, during my first week or so on the job, I remember I was wiping down all the tables that were situated straight across from the bar. I was minding my own business when I noticed a rather large older man staring at me as he sat on the tall table in the corner. He was one of our regulars. He came in every day when we opened, and always had a pint of Carlsberg. Anyways, as I continued to clean, he cleared his throat and said,
"Hey, love, how long have you been working here?"
I smiled. "Oh, only a few weeks," as I continued to clean. Then he asked,
"So, how long do you work for?"
I thought this was weird, but guessed he just wanted to know the new girl, so I replied, "About 8 to 9 hours a day. I only work weekends though, since I'm a student." Then I noticed he looked me up and down. Now at the time I was a chubby girl, not obese, but I carried most of my weight in the hip and stomach areas, runs in the family, and I was large in the bust area too. This got me a lot of unwanted attention. I never thought I was attractive by any means, and being 17 at the time, I wasn't the girly girl type. I mostly wore superhero shirts and jeans. I started to feel a little uncomfortable, but just kept on working. I was almost done, so I just smiled when I saw him do this. Then the next thing that came out of his mouth shocked me, and I'll never forget it.
Well, maybe they should give you more hours, so you can shift some of that weight of yours.
I was blown away. I dropped the smile and quietly said, "Okay then." As I finally moved on from the tall tables, I was so upset. Didn't know how to reply, and something like this had never happened to me before. I was so stunned I didn't even tell my manager. I wish I had now I look back on it. So if there's anyone who's listening and experiences anything like this, please tell your manager, and don't keep quiet about it. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates number 43. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories and sent in stories for use in this video. I don't want to jinx it, but I might be getting better. I had to pop out earlier to top up the electric and the gas and all that to keep the house running. And the other day when I went out of the house, I was a bit wibbly by the time I got home, and I was just up and down to the local shop. This was a slightly longer journey, but it was alright. I didn't feel too lightheaded at all, so hopefully that's a good sign that I'm starting to get over this little bit of sickness, this flu or whatever it was. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.